so happy that you have joined me in Aunt Mazie's kitchen. Today we are making a traditional Jamaican dish. We are making a porridge. And I know you're keen to know the name of the porridge. Yes, ma'am. It is a plantain peanut porridge. And if you didn't have plantain, guess what? You could use green banana. So it would be a green banana peanut porridge. We are using a total of 10 cups of liquid. Over here, we have put 4 cups of water to boil. And we are going to add the flavor enhancers, man. You find these anywhere across Jamaica. A cinnamon leaf. So when it starts to boil, it releases the flavor. We have a cinnamon chip. And we have mace. And you know mace is a covering for the nutmeg pod, right? That is, the nutmeg is in the shell. Well, the mace covers, hugs up the shell. Right. So we put that and leave it to boil. Remember, I have 4 cups of water over there. So we are going to blend the plantain and the other ingredients. But I'll start by adding the liquid. Here I have 2 cups of water. And I have 4 cups almond milk. Then I'm going to add the plantain. I'm using 2 medium plantain. And it wouldn't do any harm to use 2 large ones either. And remember, we are using green plantain. I pointed out earlier that if you didn't have plantain, don't you worry. You may use green bananas. So you maybe would use like about a dozen green bananas and you would peel that. Then we are adding peanuts. We are using 1 cup of dry peanuts. We soaked this for about 6 hours. You may soak it overnight. And believe you me, the yield is 2 cups. So it has actually doubled. The amount has really doubled. So we are. And we are going to blend this. So now I'm blending the mixture. And that's for about 2 minutes at most. And we need to add the remainder of the ingredients. Yes, 2 cups of oats. 2 cups oats. And we are using 2 packets of coconut milk. We just want to get everything really very smooth. So we return this. So the total blend time is about 3 to 3.5 minutes. So we We will now scrape this mixture, scrape the remainder in the pot with the water that is over here boiling, and then we are going to continue the cooking from that point. Now this is what we have. Wow. So now we are going to stir the porridge mixture. And we stir to allow an even cook, and also to make sure we don't have anything forming on the base of the pot. Wow. And we boil, stirring constantly. The longer we boil it for, it determines, how it thickens. But here we have the oatmeal and we have the plantain thickening agents, right? So we stir constantly. Making sure it's very moist. So it's around time we can start adding the spices. What are the spices we are using? We have cinnamon powder, we have nutmeg, and we have vanilla here. So we add vanilla. We have cinnamon powder, and this is about a tablespoon of cinnamon powder, and we have some freshly grated nutmeg. We have a teaspoon of salt. I will return to mixing. I'm using a spoon, but if you have a whisk, you could use a whisk to mix. And as the liquid boils, you have a release of flavors from the cinnamon powder, the nutmeg, the cinnamon leaf, and the cinnamon chip. Wow. And a porridge gives, as I mentioned before, it's a satisfying breakfast idea. It is filling. It is very nourishing. It's very satisfying. And a child or anybody who eats a porridge as part of breakfast, when lunchtime comes, your stomach is almost still full. Your stomach remains full for a longer period of time. Wow. See how it thickens? I'm using plantain in this dish. We did point out earlier that green bananas could be used. My grandmother we had porridge every day of the very often. We had porridge very often, and we always look forward to it. We used mainly green banana for our porridge, and we never had blender in those days, So, but we had a grater. We had our grater man, and we would peel, and it was an assignment, a task that we could help our grandmother to make, Because my grandmother served plenty porridge, plenty porridge. See, yes, because it has thickened. The presence of the oats and the presence of the green plantain thickens beautiful. I'm just sorry that you out in TV land, you're not smelling what is happening in this kitchen. I have no doubts, though, that one day you will join me. Right? That's a deal. Wow. It thickens. And this is almost ready. I shared with you, you know, about what my grandmother, and it's not my grandmother alone, because I know your grandmother would give you all of these goodies. But, you know, back then, my grandmother we would use cow's milk because we had 1 or 2 cows, or 1 or 2 goats also. So we had goats or cow's milk. But I share with you, we used sweetened condensed milk in our porridge. And boy, one of my wishes was to do well at school so that in the world of work I'll be able to earn enough money to purchase a can of sweetened condensed milk. Don't laugh. Don't laugh at me, that's true, you know. Wow. The porridge is almost ready to be served. Almost ready. It is smooth, free of lumps, and flows easily. We are about to add, for now, a last ingredient. I'm using about 1 ounce, about 4 tablespoons of butter. I spoke earlier about my grandmother. She never used butter or margarine in her porridge. But you see, I mentioned before that we used cow's milk and we also used some goat's milk. And you know the milk, fat is a component of the milk. But when I visited my friend's home, her mother used skim milk and she used a pat of butter. She ended up with a porridge that was very smooth and very manageable and very palatable. Really was very nice. But the same was true of my grandmother's porridge. So we can turn off the flame now. And man, porridge is ready to be served. I want, while I'm finishing off this porridge, for you to help to determine what we are going to serve with this porridge. So let me bring it over here. Wow. The butter has melted. We need to add a sweetener, right? I'm adding a half cup of sugar. The porridge, see how smooth it is? Falls from the scraper or from the spoon. I'm going to add a half cup of sugar. And you may use dark sugar, you may use granulated sugar, sugar of your choice. And you mix this. I can tell you it gives you the right sweetness level that you are looking for. Porridge is ready to be served. Wow. Wow. Now I have some unusual containers. I have porridge bowls, soup bowls, but let me tell you, they're made from gourd, yes. And it makes a difference. Sometimes we have to serve in these, go back to basics. We have them in cabinets, I know that very well. But we are going to take them out and serve them to our families. Wow. Filling, satisfying. One's a little bigger than the other, don't you worry. I suppose one will get a little more. Could maybe serve one more. Maybe we could give these bigger ones to the father or son, grandma. any member of the family. We get this out of the way. We grew up on sweetened condensed milk. Here we have served the plantain and peanut porridge. We said before, satisfying and very filling, right? We added sugar as a sweetener before, but you may add sweetened condensed milk if you wish. I have some here. Could maybe drizzle on some. Small amount, and I'm just putting this on one. We have the grated nutmeg, and we just sprinkle some over the top, over the surface. Yeah. And remember, it was freshly grated. I know you're keen on finding about the containers we have used. I pointed out they are gourd. They bear on a tree, yes, in most rural places across Jamaica. You're going to cut that across and scoop out the cavity, and you're going to allow them to dry. And we call them gourdy. Remember? Yes, man. You may not remember the gourd, as I mentioned, but you certainly will remember the calabash or the gourdy. Allow them to dry, let me tell you. Perfect for serving traditional Jamaican dishes. We know you'd like to get these recipes, right? Yes. We invite you to like, share, subscribe, and give us your comment. That's how we grow. Thanks so much for watching.